My name is Jake, and I live in a small town in Ohio. I'm 30 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have always struggled with believing in myself. Every morning, I wake up before sunrise and head to my job at a local gym. I work as a personal trainer, helping others reach their fitness goals. On the outside, it looks like I have it all together, but inside, I often feel lost. My clients cheer me on, but I never feel good enough to reach my own goals. For months, I've been trying to prepare for a big competition that is just a few weeks away. It's supposed to be the highlight of my career, a chance to prove I can succeed not only for others but for myself as well. However, with every workout, I fight against my own doubts. I worry that I'll embarrass myself in front of my colleagues and clients. I constantly compare myself to others, which only makes me feel worse. My heart races with anxiety whenever I think about the competition, and I often feel like giving up. This heavy weight of uncertainty hangs over me like a storm cloud. I want to be strong and confident, I want to believe that the journey is as important as the destination. But in those quiet moments at the gym, staring at my reflection in the mirror, I see only doubt staring back at me. I need to change my mindset. I need to learn to quiet that inner critic and build a bulletproof mindset. I know that if I can tap into my inner strength and shift my thinking, I might be able to overcome this challenge. As I lace up my sneakers, something starts to shift. Deep down, I feel a spark of hope. I want to become the best version of myself, not just for others but for me. As I dove deeper into my training for the competition, the challenges I faced began to mount. One morning, I arrived at the gym early, determined to focus on my workout plan. I wanted to push myself harder than ever before. As I started my routine, I quickly realized how distracting the world around me could be. The buzzing of phones, the chatter of people, and even the loud music echoed in my ears. I couldn't keep my mind from wandering to thoughts of my friends and clients. What if they don't think I'm good enough? I thought, frustration creeping in. I tried to apply techniques I had read about, like deep work, where you focus intensely without interruptions. Just as I settled into a rhythm, a client walked in, and I felt an urge to greet them. That simple distraction led to another, and soon I was scrolling through my phone, checking social media instead of pushing myself. Each time I lost focus, the disappointment brewed inside me like a thick fog. "I'll never get there," became my new mantra, and self-doubt wrapped around me tightly. I felt like I was trapped in the same old habits that had held me back for years. Every session became a battle between my aspirations and the doubts tying me down. I started to think about the habits I'd formed over time, habits that seemed so hard to break. When clients looked to me for guidance, I donned a mask of confidence, but inside, a voice whispered, "You are not good enough to lead. You will fail." During one of my low days, I attended a seminar at the gym. That day, a trainer named Sarah spoke about the importance of mindset in both fitness and life. Her passion lit a fire in that dim room. "Your thoughts shape your reality," she said. "If you believe you will fail, you will fail. But if you can shift that belief, amazing things can happen." Her words stuck with me long after she finished speaking. I realized how powerful our thoughts could be. Those words were a small light piercing through my fog of self-doubt. After the seminar, I approached Sarah and opened up about my challenges. I told her about my inner struggle and the dark thoughts that constantly pulled me down. She listened carefully, her eyes steady, and said something that changed the course of my day. "It's okay to feel lost, Jake. Every athlete goes through this. What matters is whether you choose to rise up after each fall." Those words struck a chord. I thought about what Sarah said and how the choice to push forward could be my first step in breaking free from my old habits. I noticed that my fears were holding me back not because they were strong, but because I was allowing them to be. With those thoughts, I left the seminar feeling a tiny flicker of hope. That night, instead of scrolling through my phone, I picked up a book by a famous athlete who had once faced many of the same battles I faced now. As I read, I felt inspired. The stories of struggle and triumph opened my eyes. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this journey. Shift happens. It might take time, and I knew I would still stumble, but I decided then and there to put one foot in front of the other and keep going. The journey was not just about training my body but also training my mind. As I closed the book and turned off the light, I felt a small but significant shift within me. I would not give up. Instead, I would face my challenges one step at a time. With the lessons from Sarah's seminar and the inspiration from the book fresh in my mind, I made a commitment to myself. Every day as I entered the gym, I would remind myself of the power of my thoughts. I decided to start small. Instead of allowing distractions to steer me off course, I vowed to focus on my training for just 10 minutes at a time. I took a deep breath, cleared my mind, and set a timer. At first, it felt strange. The gym was busy, and noises echoed all around me. I felt the old habits trying to creep back in, but I pushed them away. When the timer rang after 10 minutes, I looked at my progress. I had completed a whole session without letting my mind wander. I couldn't help but smile at that small victory. It was a brief slice of calm amidst the chaos, but it felt powerful. Encouraged by this small win, I decided to build on it. In the following days, I made a point to increase the time I focused. I found myself enjoying those moments when I truly connected with my workout. My muscles felt stronger, and gradually, I noticed my mood improving. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was moving through life on a conveyor belt, simply going through the motions. I recognized that as I focused better, my confidence began to grow. Then came a day that changed everything. My boss organized a big event at the gym, and it felt like all eyes were on me. I was scheduled to do a presentation, sharing my training philosophy with other trainers and clients. The day before the event, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. The doubts returned like uninvited guests. What if they laugh at me? What if I freeze on stage? The anxiety felt overwhelming, but instead of letting fear consume me, I took a moment to breathe. I reminded myself of the progress I had made. I thought about how I had focused on my workouts, and I knew I could do this, too. I practiced my presentation in front of the mirror, working to control my emotions. It was a little scary, but I wanted to believe in myself. When the day arrived, the gym buzzed with people. As I stood in front of the crowd, I felt my heart race. I started to speak, and for the first few minutes, I felt great. But halfway through, I could see some faces in the audience that seemed confused or distracted. The old voice whispered in my ear again, "You're not good enough. Look, you're losing them." Suddenly the pressure pressed down on me like a heavy weight. I stammered and rushed through my words, feeling my confidence waver. After the presentation, I felt disappointed. Yes, I had made progress, but here I was again, feeling like I had failed. I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't arrived where I wanted to be. Yet, in those moments of disappointment, I remembered something. Progress isn't linear. I had taken steps forward, even if that day felt like a step back. As I left the gym, I whispered to myself, "Next time will be better." The path to growth wouldn't always be smooth, but each experience was a chance to learn. Facing difficulties was a step in the right direction. I was starting to understand that this journey was full of ups and downs, and both were necessary. Embracing that truth helped me remain hopeful that I was moving toward becoming the person I wanted to be. The day of the competition finally arrived, and with it came a wave of mixed emotions. I could feel the excitement buzzing in the air, but underneath that energy, anxiety coiled tightly within me. As I walked into the arena, the bright lights almost blinded me, and the cheers from the crowd echoed around me like a storm. I stood at the edge of the competition floor, my heart racing as I looked at the other competitors. They all seemed so confident, moving with a grace I felt I could never achieve. My stomach twisted in knots as I waited for my turn. This was it, the moment I had dreamed of for months. But instead of feeling excited, a heavy cloud of doubt swooped in. What if I do poorly? My mind nagged. What if everyone sees me fail? Those nagging fears threatened to pull me down like quicksand. It was in that moment I felt the shadow of my old self creeping back, whispering, "You aren't strong enough. You don't belong here." Despite everything I had learned over the past few weeks, self-doubt surged like a tidal wave. The methods I had worked so hard to build felt flimsy in the face of this immense pressure. As I watched others perform effortlessly, I could feel my heart spiraling out of control. My hands trembled, and I wiped them repeatedly on my shorts. I tried to recall Sarah's teachings, but the thoughts felt jumbled. Each breath I took felt shallow and quick. When it was finally my turn to step onto the floor, my legs felt heavy, as if they had turned to stone. The room was silent as I walked to my starting position, the eyes of the audience locked on me. In that heartbeat of silence, everything I had worked for felt at stake, and I froze. Panic surged within me, and for a moment I forgot everything I had practiced. The inner critic shouted loudly, drowning out my focus. "This is going to end badly. Everyone is watching you, and you'll embarrass yourself." As the signal to begin blared, my body went into motion, but my mind was paralyzed. I stumbled through the routine, tripping over my own feet. It felt like I was watching someone else's life unfold in slow motion. I could sense a wave of gasps from the audience, and my face burned with humiliation. I wanted to scream, stop everything, and walk away, leaving this moment behind. I desperately tried to remember my training, to pull strength from the victories I had earned over the past months, but nothing seemed to help. With every mistake, the doubt piled up thicker. I felt as if I was losing my way. I had prepared for this moment, yet instead of flying, I felt like I was crashing down into failure. My heart sank deeper, and I wondered if I should have just stuck to helping my clients in the safety of the gym. But then, a small flicker of resilience sparked within me. Maybe this moment was my greatest teacher. I recalled Sarah's words about rising after each fall, and I realized that the battle with my mind was not yet lost. Despite every fear threatening to overtake me, I had to remind myself of my journey. With that thought, I channeled everything I had learned into the next move. I pushed through, determined to finish. Even if I stumbled, I would not let this moment define me. I took a deep breath, feeling my resolve beginning to surface again, ready to face the final part of this challenge. As my performance crumbled before the watchful eyes of the audience, I felt as if the weight of the world had landed on my shoulders. Each misstep buried my confidence deeper, and soon I found myself nearing a breaking point. I could hear a whistle in the distance, signaling the end of my routine. As I took my last position, I felt a hollow ache rise in my chest. The crowd clapped, but it felt far away, like it was coming from another world. All I could hear were the harsh words clouding my mind, saying I had failed. In that moment, I wanted to walk away from it all. I pictured myself stepping off the floor and simply vanishing, abandoning the journey I had worked so hard to build. I could almost hear my internal critic sneering, "See? You were never meant for this." The impulse to give up gripped my heart, squeezing tighter with every passing second. But then, as I stood there, a flash of memory flickered in the back of my mind. I remembered why I had started down this path in the first place. I thought of my first client, Mary. She had come to me feeling weak and unconfident, but through our sessions, I had seen her transform. She gained strength, both physically and mentally. I remembered her smile the first time she finished a workout she thought was impossible. That joy and pride had radiated from her, and I felt it again, as if her victory was lighting a spark in me. As I replayed those moments, a feeling warmed my heart. Suddenly, it wasn't just about my performance, it was about the journey, my growth, and the strength I had gained along the way. I remembered the advice Sarah had given about resilience and how every setback could lead to growth if I allowed it. My breathing steadied as I pictured myself helping others on their own journeys. Their struggles and triumphs, just like mine, had the power to inspire, to move forward. Standing there, I thought about how I could show others, by example, that it's okay to stumble, to falter. Isn't that what growth truly is? Flickering lights of hope pierced through the gloom of despair as I realized that each moment mattered, not just the perfect moments. Each step of the journey was essential to who I was becoming. With that newfound clarity, I felt a swell of determination rise within me. Rather than retreat into the shadows of doubt, I gathered the strength that came from the struggles, my struggles, and the struggles of others. I realized I could still finish strong, even if imperfectly. I didn't have to be flawless, I simply had to be present, to show up for myself, just like I did for my clients. As I stepped off the competition floor and into the center of the stage for my final pose, I felt the renewed energy igniting my spirit. I wasn't just competing for a medal, I was competing to represent every person who had ever faced challenges and persevered. In that moment, I understood that I didn't merely want to win. I wanted to share the message that resilience is built from facing challenges head-on. With this insight, I opened my heart to whatever came next. The journey I'd taken had transformed me, pushing me to confront my inner battles, and I realized that every stumbling step was a part of becoming who I was supposed to be. This was my story, and it was far from over. With the realization of my journey weighing heavily but positively on my heart, I took in a deep breath and steadied my mind. I hadn't come this far to let this moment define me. It was time to push forward, to apply everything I had learned about mental resilience and focus. I knew the upcoming part of my routine would be challenging, but now, I could see it clearly. Instead of focusing on my fear of failure, I redirected that energy into preparing for what lay ahead. As I resumed my position, I visualized the successful moments from my past, helping Mary, receiving praise from my clients, and celebrating my own small wins. Only this time, those images lit up my mind like fireworks, filling me with a sense of purpose. I could feel my resolve strengthening with every heartbeat. I wouldn't just go through the motions, I would engage fully, turning every ounce of nervous energy into action. The music started again, and I moved with intention. I reminded myself to breathe, focusing on that breath as I began the next part of my routine. I concentrated all my thoughts on each movement, channeling my focus fiercely. Adrenaline rushed through me as I sank into the rhythm of the music. I rediscovered that deep connection between body and mind. Still, there were moments when old doubts crept back in, threatening to unravel my concentration. A slight wobble here, a minor slip there, each mistake pulled at my nerves. I felt my mind scream, "Here you go again. You're not performing like you should." But instead of letting those feelings overwhelm me, I fought back. I coached myself with positive affirmations that had become familiar. I am strong. I am capable. I am in control. As the routine progressed, I tapped into a steady stream of determination. Each move required focus, but I could feel myself finding my groove. Whether it was a powerful lift or a graceful turn, I worked hard to maintain that flow. In moments of struggle, when I nearly faltered again, I reminded myself how far I had come. This journey was not without its bumps, but the echo of Sarah's voice reassured me, urging perseverance in the face of obstacles. Suddenly, I found myself nearing the climax of my performance. This was the most challenging section, a complex combination of moves that demanded precision and strength. My heart raced, but rather than crumbling under pressure, I embraced the moment. I sensed every muscle in my body gearing up for this critical element. With reduced distractions, I zeroed in on my movements. I encountered brief slip-ups once more. As I miscalculated a step and stumbled, my heart dropped. Time seemed to freeze, and fear flooded back. But my breath came out in sharp bursts, and I recalled the emotions tied to each setback. Rather than panic, I took a moment and decided to correct myself. Instead of dwelling on the mistake, I pivoted using what I had learned: adaptability. I transformed my error into a powerful statement of resilience. With renewed vigor, I finished the routine with fierce composure. As the last note of the music faded, I stood tall, embodying everything I had fought for. There was still sweat on my brow and the echoes of doubt in the air, but I had pushed through. I had called upon the strength within me, overcoming each challenge and embracing the beauty and messiness of growth. As the crowd erupted into applause, I felt a wave of pride wash over me. I didn't need to win a trophy for this victory. I had faced my inner battles and emerged stronger. This turning point hadn't just been about competing, it was about discovering a part of myself I had never truly appreciated. And in that moment, I knew I would carry this lesson with me long after the competition was over. As the applause washed over me, I stood in the center of the arena, my heart still pounding from the adrenaline. The routine was over, but the real work had just begun. I felt a mix of triumph and relief, yet with that came an ache deep inside, an ache for the moments of struggle, fear, and doubt that had followed me through this journey. I had faced a significant challenge, and in that moment of victory, I realized I had won something much more important than a trophy. Once I'd stepped off the stage, a wave of warmth moved through me. I was surrounded by friends, colleagues, and clients congratulating me with smiles and cheers. Their encouragement flooded my heart, and the pride they expressed for my performance filled me with joy. Winning felt good, but the real prize lay in the battles I had faced to get here. As I made my way through the crowd, I started to reflect on everything that had brought me to this point. I thought back to the days when I felt strong self-doubt. I remembered the times I stumbled during training and wanted to give up, thinking I wasn't cut out for success. Yet, here I was. I had shown up, faced my fears, and emerged with a new understanding of mental toughness that I never knew I needed. Sitting on a bench in the corner of the gym, I took a few deep breaths to calm myself. I closed my eyes and let my thoughts flow freely. I recognized how, during my deepest struggles, I had unknowingly built a stronger mindset. The old fears, the ones that once bound me, felt like distant echoes. Through each slip and misstep, I had leaned into discomfort and learned something valuable. I had discovered that success was not always about perfection, it was about progress, resilience, and the courage to keep going. While I didn't leave the competition with a shiny trophy, I walked away with mental tools that would help me in future challenges. I understood that every setback was an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow. I had found a community of support in my colleagues who shared similar experiences. Their encouragement and belief in me felt like a buoy, lifting me above the waves of self-doubt that had once threatened to drown my ambitions. Over the following days, thoughts of my experience replayed in my mind. I realized I could use what I had learned during the competition to help my clients. I thought about how I could share my journey not just as a trainer but as someone who had struggled, who had faced doubts and risen through them. I imagined leading workshops where I could guide others in transforming their mental barriers into strengths, just as I had done. This newfound passion awakened a fire in my heart, a desire to give back and inspire others to recognize their potential. This experience transformed into more than just a competition, it became a pivotal moment in my life. I had grown not only as a competitor but as a person ready to face challenges head-on. As the days turned into weeks, I carried the lessons with me and found joy in every attempt to build my skills, both in training and in supporting others. I realized that failure was not something to fear, but a teacher that shaped my journey. As I stepped into the gym each day, a sense of confidence surrounded me. With every workout, I resisted letting old doubts creep back in. I embraced progress, knowing that this journey was far from over. Each small win mattered, and I felt inspired to keep evolving and growing, not just for myself but for everyone who looked to me for guidance. After the competition and the journey of self-discovery that followed, I found myself approaching daily life with renewed energy and mental strength. The lingering self-doubt that once clouded my mind began to fade, replaced by a sense of clarity and confidence. As I stepped into the gym each morning, the familiar sounds of weights clanging and upbeat music playing filled me with a sense of purpose. I had transformed my mindset, and the change rippled throughout my entire life. I noticed the little things in my daily routine shifting too. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by distractions while training, I was able to summon a deep focus that helped me push through workouts. When the gym filled up with clients and conversations swirled around me like a blur, I kept my concentration sharp. I no longer felt the urge to scroll through my phone or check every notification. Instead, I was fully present, engaging with clients and offering them encouragement. One afternoon, a younger client named Lisa walked up to me, looking uncertain. She had been training hard but had faced setbacks that made her doubt herself. I saw the familiar tension on her face reflecting the struggles I once faced. Drawing from my own experiences, I knelt down to her level, looking directly into her eyes. "Remember, every setback is a setup for a comeback," I said. "You've come so far. Let's work on building your strength again, one step at a time." With each word, I could see the spark returning to her eyes. It was incredible to witness her confidence begin to shift. In those moments, I felt the lessons I learned gaining even more traction. By supporting Lisa and others like her, I reinforced my own growth. Outside of the gym, my personal life mirrored these changes as well. I approached daily challenges differently, whether running errands, managing time, or dealing with tough situations. When stressors popped up, I reminded myself to take a deep breath and assess the situation instead of reacting with panic. If I faced a difficult conversation or a looming deadline, I broke the tasks down into manageable steps, focusing on one action at a time. The overwhelming weight that once threatened to crush me shifted into a motivator to stay organized and proactive. My friends and family commented on how they could see the changes in me. They noticed I smiled more often, laughed freely, and carried myself with confidence. I listened actively during conversations, engaged fully, and offered those close to me the support they needed. The worries that clouded my life before shifted into quieter voices, and I welcomed my newfound ability to embrace challenges. Weeks turned into months, and I continued to cultivate my bulletproof mindset. I dared to try new things, expanding my training methods and testing out techniques that challenged me. Sometimes, I still faced fears and distractions, yet instead of feeling defeated, I approached them with curiosity. Each minor obstacle was yet another opportunity for growth. When small disappointments or setbacks surfaced, I no longer felt the urge to give up. I leaned into the discomfort, asking myself what I could learn from the experience. I realized that life was a never-ending series of ups and downs, and my journey to growth was ongoing. By practicing this resilient mindset each day, I kept building a stronger foundation. As I moved forward, I embraced every lesson and moment with gratitude. I knew that I had the strength to navigate hurdles, not as obstacles, but as stepping stones to achieving my potential. Through the changes I made, I discovered not just who I was but who I was capable of becoming. Each day brought new chances to embody that growth, reminding me that the path of self-improvement was as beautiful as the destination. As I stood in the gym, looking out at the familiar scene of weights clanging and clients working hard, a sense of fulfillment washed over me. The person I had become felt worlds away from the one who once struggled with fear and self-doubt. I was not just a personal trainer, I was a leader, a beacon of support for others who faced their own challenges. The journey had reshaped me, sculpting my character like a sculptor molds clay into something beautiful. In the weeks following the competition, I had continued to integrate the lessons of resilience and focus into every aspect of my life. Each session in the gym became an opportunity to embody those values while imparting them to my clients. I fostered an environment where we all encouraged each other to embrace our journeys, no matter how rocky the path. I had seen Lisa grow in ways that made my heart swell with pride, echoing the journey I once took with myself. During my own training, I challenged myself to step outside my comfort zone. I began to explore new workout routines and even took on group classes. These activities were exhilarating, experiments that pushed my limits and deepened my connection to fitness and health. More importantly, they reinforced my newfound belief that failure was part of growth. Each time I stumbled, I found strength to rise and try again. I no longer shied away from challenges, instead, I welcomed them with a sense of curiosity. One evening after an uplifting training session, I gathered my clients for a frank discussion about overcoming obstacles. I shared my own experiences, from the dread before the competition to the small victories that followed. It's about facing our fears, not avoiding them, I told them, the truth resonating through whatever doubt still lingered in the room. We all feel unsure sometimes, but it's what we choose to do when we face challenges that defines us. Their eyes sparkled with renewed hope, I could see that my words were igniting something within them. We discussed how setbacks are not failures, they are stepping stones to personal mastery. I felt proud at that moment, recognizing the growth not just in myself but in everyone around me. Every conversation became an opportunity to lift people up, suggesting strategies to embrace focus and mindset. As I wrapped up my thoughts and thanked them for their hard work, I realized something profound. I had transformed from an individual often trapped in a web of self-doubt to a man filled with hope and confidence. I was ready to embrace whatever life threw at me next. The spirit of resilience stood strong within me, growing and evolving with each day. Reflecting on my journey, I understood that resilience was not a destination, it was a way of life. I remained aware that future challenges would arise, but instead of fearing the unknown, I would look forward to them. I felt a vibrant enthusiasm bubbling within me, knowing that I was now equipped to handle whatever came my way. In that moment, I recited the powerful lesson I wanted to pass on: when we keep pushing forward, we find strength in our vulnerability, and that vulnerability blooms into courage. This phrase captured my journey perfectly, a reminder that inner strength grows as we confront our fears rather than flee from them. As I stepped back onto the gym floor, I couldn't help but feel excited about my future, about the new challenges that awaited me. Whatever path I would take next, I knew I had built a solid foundation to stand on. With each new day, I looked ahead with hope and anticipation, ready to rise again and continue my journey of personal growth.